Welcome to PWS United, a podcast for the Prader-Willi syndrome community, brought to you by PWSA USA. This podcast gives the latest news in research, advocacy, and family support by bringing together staff, volunteers, PWS treatment specialists, biotech and pharmaceutical representatives, caregivers, family members, and individuals with PWS. Our goal is to share education, awareness, and resources with those living with PWS and their supporters. Join us in our mission to enhance the quality of life and empower those affected by Prader-Willi syndrome.
Well, welcome everybody to another episode of PWS United, and I am here with Stacy Ward, our CEO, and we're going to go over our Pulse Volume 126 from July 4th, 2025. But first, Stacy, how are you?
I am great. How are you? Thank you for letting me be here with you for this episode.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is definitely a treat. I'm doing well. So we were just talking, I just dropped Freya off at camp today. So if anybody's ever considering camp, it can be kind of scary, but I think it's going to go well. I
It
hope
is.
so.
It's going to be great. And like I said, I think the opportunity alone is a success. It's worth taking the risk.
Yes. And she had a great trial run at conference. So we're going to start by talking about the conference. So, because we just got back from Phoenix, that was last week.
It's hard to believe it was a week ago already.
Yeah. Yeah. So how would you say conference went? Can you just kind of give us an overall, what your experience was at conference?
Sure. So conference for 20 plus years now has been my favorite week of the year. I love conference. I love having everybody together. I love that there are so many people with PWS there, and they're also different and unique and amazing. And it's an opportunity to really just have fun with them while also being able to connect with families that I've met over the years, or even clinicians, researchers, or professional providers who have been like my heroes in this journey. It's just really cool to have all of them together. So I would say, conference was all of that and then some. There was this energy, and I think other people have mentioned this, but there was just this unbelievable energy everywhere you went. It didn't matter if it was the clinical scientific meeting, the professional providers meeting, or the family conference. It was there. Everybody was feeling it. And then for me personally, one of the highlights for me was we hosted the first ever Adults with PWS half-day conference, and that was really cool. It was really fun, first of all, there were 58 people who were registered for it. So 58 adults with PWS who were all very different, very unique, but all really excited to be doing something like that didn't feel like supervision the way that camp does for some of them, that they're there because they need some supervision, but it felt like they were truly contributing, and they were. We had some really great discussions in that conference. So overall, I just think it was amazing. I could go on forever, so sorry for the rambling.
No, it's great. Yeah, it was my first experience. I mean, I went to a conference 2 years ago as a speaker, and then this was my first time working. So I really enjoyed that. I got to meet Patrice Carroll finally in person, got to give her a big ol' hug. And for me, I got to interview some of those adults. We interviewed them for some future videos, and that was a really great experience. And then my girls went to camp, and they loved it, and they had an incredible time. Freya made some friends. So Freya and I actually wrote up a little write-up about our experience. But one of the most amazing things was when Freya got there and the hangout in the wave pool with her, and she was kind of looking around, and she started noticing that there were people with PWS around her. And it's the first time that she's ever been. I mean, she has one friend with PWS who we see once or twice a year, and that's it. That's the only people she's ever met. So it was really cool to see her experience not being the only one with PWS in a space. And I could see how special that was for her, how happy it made her. And then we went out to dinner, and she was like, well, they have PWS. And then I would turn and look, and I would know the parents, or I would know the kid, or, sometimes you're just like, yes, they do.
Yeah, that is so cool. There was an adult who came to conference for the first time too, and he's met one or two other people with PWS in kind of similar situations. Maybe once a year they see each other, that sort of thing. And as they were leaving to head back to where they live, he came back and he hugged me, and he was like, "Thank you for changing my life. I found my people."
Oh,
Right? I was like, "Ah, tears." But it was so cool. I think in a world where we really are pushing so hard for more inclusion and for, mainstream and people to not be secluded based on their disability, we forget that sometimes it's really important for them to see people with the same syndrome, that representation, and know that they're not alone. And I'm not saying all of that inclusion in the mainstream and all of those things are bad. Definitely not, and we need to continue doing that, but
right.
I forgot how important it was for them to find other people who share similar journeys. It was so, so sweet.
Yeah, and when I was writing about it and thinking about, just kind of watching Freya have this experience, I realized how lonely it must feel sometimes. And so that was just really it is an incredible experience, and I think something that we take for granted, I think as parents, we're so focused on making sure our kids have their needs and everybody understands them, and then we can be like, "Oh, this is so hard. I need to find other parents. I need to find my community." And it's like, "Well, oh, wait, but our kids need that too." Like, that's gotta be so lonely at times.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of feels about it. So,
There's nothing
uh,
wrong with that. I
yeah,
cry over everything, so I hope I'm not the only one crying over these things. So
every adult that I interviewed, by the end of it, I was in tears.
I love that. And I could tell they were at least the adults that I talked to who were interviewed were so honored to be interviewed. Like,
Oh,
it
good.
really made them feel valued, and, again, it was somebody else telling them that what they say matters,
Yes.
and I just don't think that we could ever do that enough, that could always keep
Yeah.
doing. So, I love that it was something that you guys prioritized.
Yeah. Well, it was really special. It was an honor to interview them.
I've
Uh,
heard I don't know if you have, I know that we shared a few quotes from people in the polls that we had received, but I have heard and directly, either through text, people calling, or in emails, just how great people thought the event was and how they're looking forward to not just our conference in 2027, but also FPWR's conference next year and IPSO's in 3 years. And there's this momentum now, I think,
mhm.
that's really, really exciting and is going to allow us to do lots of things besides just conference better.
Really special experience, and to be a
Yeah,
part of it was really cool.
it really was, and, just a quick shout out to all of our sponsors. There's no way we could have pulled this off without them, so just really just wanna say thank you to all of our sponsors for their incredible support throughout the entire process, not just during conference.
And for being there, and every representative that I met was super friendly and very happy to be there and just seems to genuinely enjoy the community, so that's really cool too, I think. So
It
they're not
really
just
did.
this brand or whatever, but they're people that are invested in our community, and I wanna say a special shout out to Soleno because I think Freya came home with 4 sticker books.
I bet she did.
They were definitely a hit. I was like, "Wow, you guys know your audience for sure."
Yes, they do.
So one thing, just we'll put a link to this in the show notes, but Prader Willie Holmes wrote a really lovely article about their experience at the conference. And so that's kind of from a professional provider or residential provider perspective. If you want to read that article, that's you can get their kind of lowdown of their experience.
We're also looking for other people who wanna share their experience, whether it's you can write an article like Prada Willie Holmes did, you can join us on the podcast and share your experience, but we would love to get feedback directly from you guys. You can also fill out the surveys if you have
Right.
not already.
Please
That's
do
one way
that.
to get feedback, but we would love to hear directly from people as well, either through this media platform or through our blog post, however you wanna do it, but share.
Yeah, and you can email communications at pwsausa.org, or you can email me directly at africke at pwsausa.org. I'll put both of those in the show notes. Well, if you're listening to the podcast and you know that we had we had a live stream, and then last week I published the nutritional recommendation session from Michael Tand, and then we have another session that will come out. But all of the main ballroom sessions were videoed, and so they are available on our YouTube, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes. So definitely you can go check those out. There was some really well, I don't know. I didn't get to go to many of the main ballroom sessions, but I heard great things about them.
They were good. I didn't either get to be in there very often, but I've watched them since we released them on YouTube, and they're so good. They were so good. We did also, for people who were wondering if we recorded anything else outside of the ballroom, we didn't record those directly, but we did ask speakers to either pre-record or post-record their presentations and send them to us through Zoom. So it won't be the professional recording like we had in the main ballroom, but it's an opportunity for us to then share other sessions that maybe people missed. Now, I do want to preface that with, we did not make it a requirement for those speakers. So it wasn't something that they had to do, but we are asking them if they're willing to do that so that we can continue to share out that information with the larger audience.
I love that. So we also got to have a really fun celebration for the 50th birthday of PWSA, and that culminated in a drone show, which your husband created for all of us. So do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So yeah, this was something that for 2 years I had been talking to him about, and he runs a fireworks company. And it was the week before the 4th of July. So asking him to be like, hey, can you leave New York and come to Phoenix and do this for me? They did great. And, a shout out to not just him, but John Ruppnow and Gordon Clothier and some of the kids. I don't want to give all of their full names, but some parents had mentioned this to their teenagers and they were willing to help. So Eric, Tyler, Holden, and Christian all went over to help set up. Eric and Holden came back to help actually do the show and tear down. It was incredible to have their help. So huge, huge shout out to them. It was very hot for those of you who remember sitting by the pool.
Yeah.
Imagine being out on the concrete without any shade all day long. It was very, very hot for them. So having those extra hands was incredible. But the drone show itself, I'm so proud of how this came out. So it's the first show that I was able to design. And so I did all the design elements and then he did all the programming and then actually flying of the show. But I think it came out incredible. People seem to really, really enjoy it. It's unique. For me personally, I like drones way more than fireworks. I think you can be much more creative with them. I hear a lot of people say they like the bangs of the fireworks, and sure, there's a place for that, but I will take a drone show all day over that. I just think it's really, really cool to be creative with the images and spell things out, and then the animation. My two favorite images, and you can watch the drone show, it'll be linked in the show notes, but my two favorite images was the walking zebra representing the rare disease community. I love how that one came out, and the PWSA logo. I think that came out beautifully.
It looked so good. I got like chills when I saw it up there. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I love the wine or the champagne glasses as well.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
We did that a few years ago for somebody's birthday party. And when they clinked together and the champagne came out at the top, I was like, okay, now that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. The whole thing was really cool. I mean, I heard nothing but just great things about it. And as someone who has dogs, I prefer drone show over fireworks any
Yeah,
day. And so do my dogs.
I bet they do. Yeah, I heard a lot of people who were in the lazy river had just kind of stopped where they were so that they could watch it. And there was a little bit of a pile up where people were trying to get spots in the lazy river so that they could see it. A shout out to Soleno for sponsoring it. The reality is that drone shows are very, very expensive. And without the support of Soleno, we would not have been able to offer that to the community. So shout out to them for that. I do think it came out really well. And listening to the kids, so if you watch the video, you can hear the kids and how excited they were and the oohs and the ahs. And I was like, okay, this worked.
Yeah, it definitely worked. It was really cool. Okay, well, anything else that you wanted to say about conference or?
Just thank you for everybody who came. And those of you who didn't come, the comments that I've been seeing as we've been sharing the live streams or pictures have been so positive. And we missed you guys We hope that you're able to come to another one. I love the feedback about how we can make it more accessible in the future. So, we're going to be talking with people about some closed captioning and some other ways that we can make all the sessions more accessible. So super, super excited about the feedback that we've heard. Having said that, we'd also want to hear the feedback that maybe isn't as positive. So if you do have some constructive criticism that you want to share, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's the only way we're going to get better is if we hear that as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things I heard was maybe have a chance for parents to meet up while the kids are in camp instead of just going from session to session, because that is something that people always talk about. I mean, of course, we're trying to bring the information to the entire community, but there's something special about being at conference that you only get from being at conference.
Very true.
But yeah, it was an incredible experience. I'm glad I got to be a part of it, and I had a lot of fun, and I was exhausted.
Then you did it right.
Yep. All right, so we're going to move on. So our PWSA memory for this week was that in July 1975, the Prader-Willi Parents and Friends, which is how PWSA originally was named, published the first edition of the Gathered View. And that is a newsletter for the PWS community. And that name was chosen because its purpose was to gather ideas from many sources, including parents, teachers, medical people, and other professionals in the many related disciplines that make contribution to the growth and development of handicapped people. That was a quote. So that was in 1975. So we are going over the Pulse today. The Pulse was once the Gathered View. So this is 50 years in the making, the PWSA newsletter. It's been going on for 50 years. So
Incredible
yeah.
that we've been sharing out that kind of information for 50 years. When we closed down our physical office, there were copies of all of the original Gathered Views. And you see from like the that really thin paper, like a dot printer that we had for some of us who are also nearing 50, that we had in elementary school. The first issues were printed on that and then hand stuffed and mailed out to
Yep.
attendees to where we are now. It's really incredible.
Yeah. And if you want to see those, we do have them all on the website. We have the newsletter catalog. And it's fun to go through and read. And definitely, sometimes the language used or the names of things, or sometimes we have to remember that 50 years ago we were using different language.
Yes. Yes,
So,
we were.
and that's okay. We learn as we go. Also, I'll add a link. So if you have a memory, I got to meet some people who've been around for a long time and at the conference, and it was cool to hear some of the stories of back in the day and like how it started here and then it was there. And so that was really cool. So we have some of that on video. And also, if you have a memory to share, and it doesn't have to be from 50 years ago, but just something in the course of the 50 years, if you want to share a memory, it could have been 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but we're sharing those every week. That link will be in the show notes. And then our Spotlight on Hope this week was submitted by Sarah Kasabi, our information specialist, our phone guru, mom to Khaled, cutest little guy at the conference. And this
is so cool.
It's so cool. And I know people have been asking, so before you get too excited, I don't think there are copies you can buy yet.
Okay.
But hopefully that will become a thing because it's so cool. So this is a comic book. I'll just read it. This was submitted by Sarah. Families from around the world were invited to submit their comic stories and artwork. Stories of strength, resilience, and imagination, all centered around our incredible PWS heroes and their battles against monsters, including the infamous Chromosome 15 monster and his sneaky companions. These heartfelt contributions were put together into a colorful comic-style booklet, now also available in Spanish, Greek, and Arabic. So those 3 languages and English. So Khaled received the Arabic version of the book he requested, and it featured one of his best friends, our very own hero, Ahmed. Known as the Fitness Pharaoh, Ahmed shared his inspiring journey on how he managed to combat the monster and lose weight. Even more special, the drawings were lovingly created by his amazing mom, capturing Ahmed's strength and determination in every line. I love that so much. That's so cool that they collaborated on it together. So special thanks to Ipso, Sarah Jane Judge, and Neil Bratchpiece for all of their love, creativity, and contribution into bringing this comic book to life, and for making it available in different languages. Receiving a copy of this comic as a gift touched our hearts. It's more than just a book. It's a celebration of our children's strength, imagination, and uniqueness. Thank you for making our kids feel seen, valued, and powerful. This project was funded and gifted in collaboration with IPSO. So again, I don't know that there are copies available, but if you get on our social media, you can see pictures of the comic. It just looks so cool.
It's so cool, and Khaled was so excited. It was really, really cute, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, about how important it is for your kids to be seen
Yes. So,
in the representation.
yes.
Very cool. And another example of the collaboration with IPSO.
Yep. I love it. So hopefully they'll do something like that again, or they'll, just do other cool stuff. I just love all the creativity of how to spread awareness and all of that. So
There's so many ways. And although, Sarah submitted this one, but please, if you like to share or honor your loved one or share a success story with the PWS community, you can share your spotlight through our website. And I'm making an assumption here that you'll link that in the
yes.
show notes.
Yep. I always do. So check out the show notes. And seriously, nothing is too small. Like sometimes people just write in, here's my 8-month-old baby. Look how cute they are.
Yes.
And we
And
always
we're going to
agree.
celebrate and we're going to cry and say how beautiful they are.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the events and fundraiser section. And the first event that we're highlighting is our Journey of Hope Gala. So, this event is designed to celebrate the 50 years of PWSA. And we're celebrating this all year long, but the culmination is going to happen at this Journey of Hope Gala, which is being held Friday, September 26th, starting at 6 p.m. Central Time at the Ritz Carlton in St. Louis. And we are so excited to be honoring the pioneers who created the organization and the folks who have helped us get to where we are now. It's going to be incredible. So, in addition to kind of honoring the people in the past, we're going to take a look at the future and what do our next 50 years look like. So, come join us. You can purchase tickets through the show notes link or on our website under the events tab. But we would love to have everybody there with us celebrating.
Yeah. And it's in St. Louis, so you can go to the Arch while you're there too, which is a really cool experience that I will
Very
never do again because I have a fear of heights now.
Man, you're really selling it.
I went to the Arch as a kid and it was a really cool experience
Yeah.
to be at the top. Yeah, you're at the top and you can kind of feel it moving and you look underneath you and there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's cool. If you can
I was
stomach
busy.
it.
Ferris
uh,
wheels, any of that stuff, not my thing. Mm-mm. So the next event is the Hunter Lens Golf Tournament, and this is being hosted by the Lens family again. This is their 16th year hosting this golf tournament to support PWSA USA, and we are so incredibly grateful to them for continuing to support us. That's being held September 13th at 1 p.m. at the Heritage Hills Golf Club in Lakeville, Massachusetts. I had the opportunity to attend last year. What a fun event. So the folks who've been participating in this golf tournament have been coming back year after year. They all know PWS so well. And the support that they give Hunter and his parents and his siblings is just, it's so cool to watch that kind of love and support from a community. So if you're in the area and you like golf, check it out.
so we don't usually promote the podcast because people are listening to the podcast, so they know about it. But I do want to say, because Dr. Destiny Pasha had a really great idea because, when we do these sessions at conference, people have so many questions. For some people, for a lot of people, it's the only time they'll ever have access to these professionals and these people with this great knowledge. So she created a QR code with like a Google form. So what we are going to do is people who attended the session, if you didn't get to ask your question or if you have follow-up questions, also, I think it's open to people who didn't get to attend the session but have a question. And there will be a link in the show notes. But you can submit your question, and then you have until July 11th to submit those questions. And then she's going to answer those on the podcast. So that'll be really fun. So she'll get to kind of dive in a little deeper and really go through those questions. So if you have a question for Dr. Pasha, find the link in the show notes and submit that form. and then we'll let you know when it's coming out on the podcast.
I love that she's doing this, and I would love to talk with some of our other presenters and see if it's something that they would be willing to do, because that is one of the things we heard over and over again. Back to conference, and some of the feedback was because there's only 15 minutes between sessions, it's
Right.
really not enough time for people to wait in line, get their questions asked, and then still make it to a next session on time. So having other ways to then be able to connect or get their questions asked and answered. And so many of them have similar questions that this kind of format would be really great for all of
Yeah.
them. So I love that you guys are doing this with Destiny, and I'd love to open it up to others if they're interested as well.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, that's why we started Asking
Yeah.
Us In, because a lot of people have the same questions. So hopefully this is a way to get those questions out to more, or get those answers out to more people. So yeah, I think anytime we can do something like that, that's awesome.
So now we're going to move along to the advocacy section. And the first thing in this section is really a shout out to the Advocacy in Action presentation that took place during conference. It was standing room only. This room was absolutely packed, and we were turning people away at the door. It was incredible. So Dorothea Lant and Elaine Toll, who are on our advocacy team, led this panel discussion with Jessica Kempa, who is mom to Kaya, who's 6 years old, Paige Rivard, who's mom to Jake, who's 14, Jen Garcia, mom to Rocco, who's 20, Justice Rickenbach, who many of you know. She's a 21-year-old living with Prader-Willi syndrome. And they shared their journey as advocacy ambassadors for PWSA and really talked about how, one, each of them got into the advocacy space, what motivated them, why they felt it was so important, and then shared the work that they've been doing as ambassadors, whether it's in DC or at their own state government level. It was so, so good. One of the things that I liked most about this presentation was that we did have a representation of all ages, of people with PWS being represented either by their parents or themselves. It also highlighted for us that there is a lack of diversity within our advocacy ambassador group, as well as dads.
Mm.
So just going to push you all out there a little bit. If you would like to get involved, please, please, please reach out to Dorothea at advocacy at pwsausa.org. This presentation was incredible, but it is not representative of the entire PWS population. And that's an area that we want to improve, and we can only do that if you help us. And then for those of you who don't know, because it was not on the agenda, we did have a surprise guest during this presentation and had asked Anish from Soleno to speak about the advocacy work that Soleno is supporting PWSA doing. And there's quite a bit of cross collaboration right now between both PWSA, FPWR, and Soleno around the advocacy efforts in DC. And he took the opportunity to not only share some of the collaboration, but really he was just so incredibly grateful to this community for the advocacy work that they have done and how that has helped benefit Soleno as a company. So that was, I think, a nice surprise for people that he was willing to do that, and felt that it was important that the community was able to hear directly from him how appreciative they are. We've all been saying over and over again how thankful we are for Soleno and the first approval, but it was important for him that he had the opportunity to then share just how grateful they are for this community.
Yeah, there was a buzz around it. I remember when it was happening. I was off recording or something, but I remember there were like messages. Oh my God, standing room only. Not everybody can get in.
Yeah. Turning people away is not fun.
No, the sibling panel also had to do that.
The dads, too.
And
So
the dads?
yeah, and the dads. Yeah. So what that taught us is that those rooms for those breakout sessions need to be much bigger in the future, which is really, really exciting
Yeah.
that there's so much interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because I think when the dads group was first started, there were like 4 dads, and that was only a few years ago.
Yeah.
And my husband went. This was his first conference. This was my husband's first time being in a PWS community.
So was that overwhelming for him? I heard from a few parents who were experiencing conference for the first time that the amount of information and then the sheer number of people there was a little bit intimidating for the first timers. Did he experience that at all?
No, he did not feel overwhelmed. He's a softie like me, so there was definitely, like, tears, he was
Love
like,
that.
"What a beautiful experience." He loved the dad session. We got to meet a family who I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I got an email from a family a few months ago. The mom's brother has a son that is in my youngest daughter's class, and she goes to a small school. And she was like, "My daughter just got diagnosed with PWS." So this is like the other opposite ends of California, and we just have this connection of like of my youngest daughter's class. It was really weird. It was like, wait, what? And she's older. Well, she's older than Freya. But they came to conference and it was so great to meet them. I think, I was worried it was going to be a little overwhelming for them, but we went to the California session, or there was like a meetup with PWCF.
Mhm.
And so she got to meet some other California families, and Freya and her daughter were like hovered over a puzzle and they were playing a puzzle. And then when I got to the water park later, because we were setting up, and I looked over and Freya and this girl were in with those double tubes and they were just floating down the lazy river together. And it just made my heart so full. It was so,
I love that.
yeah, it
These
was
are
really great.
connections that people remember forever.
Yeah. 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 They had a
So
FaceTime the
powerful.
other night.
Oh,
Yeah. But yeah, so Andy and that mom, my husband and that mom got to chat and hang out and talk.
good.
And yeah, so it was really good. So, but I don't think it was overwhelming for him. He just thought it was really beautiful. He was really happy to be there.
I love that. I think, and I don't have the statistics, so don't quote me, but it seemed like there was a lot more dads at this conference than there had been in 23 or even
Mhm.
19. And that's really, really great. Like,
Yeah.
I love that people are coming as families now and really experiencing this as a whole family.
Yeah. It's so important. I think it's fantastic that families are coming and so that the burden isn't solely on one person
Yeah,
who's learning all the information and then has to disseminate that to the rest of the family. That's a lot of responsibility. So good job, dads, for showing up. Good job, secondary caregiver, if that's the mom or the dad or the grandparent, whatever. Thank you for showing up because it's a lot.
it's a lot. And, just a quick shout out to Charles, who jumped in kind of last minute. The original moderator for that session was not able to join us. And Charles jumped right in, and he has done an incredible job mobilizing dads and getting them involved and really helping, I think, me and some of the rest of the PWS team to recognize or acknowledge that dads need to be supported differently than the way we've been supporting moms.
Mm,
And, prior to Charles joining our team, we were an all-female mom staff. So, hearing the dad's perspective, I think, has really helped us look at this differently. And I am so, so impressed with the work that he's doing to help mobilize the dads and help them feel supported in a way that is meaningful to them.
yeah. I would love to hear more about that. Like what support looks like for dads. Well, I know that Andy loved the session, so it was really cool for him to be there and meet other dads.
That's great.
Moving on to family support. Like I said, the blog for this week was written by Freya and I, and I've kind of already gone over all this stuff, but definitely read it because Freya's got a great little section in there about her experience at conference. So you'll find that link in the show notes.
And then
Now, this looks really cool. It is a new residential site that is being created. The C15 Foundation is an organization dedicated to creating opportunities for individuals living with PWS, and it's announcing the creation of a live, work, play, and thrive community in the Chattahoochee. No, yeah, in the Chattahoochee. I was like, went down yonder. Okay. In Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia, approximately 20 minutes from the Atlanta airport. So, the first of its kind, this dedicated PWS development will be home to high functioning PWS young adults, current ages of 20 to 30, who have the desire and ability to reach greater heights of independence and self development. The 100-acre C15 campus is proposed to provide a genuine opportunity to live a more self supportive life while still receiving guidance and light oversight from on-campus coaches. Additionally, all residents will be required to have a part-time job on or off campus. So this will offer 24 private apartments with no kitchens, consisting of a large private bedroom and a bathroom with connected common areas, an ultra secure dining hall, an activity center that includes a pool, a walking track, and more, and a working farm. So the food will all be served in one place, and some of it will be grown on the property, which I'm a big fan of that for anybody. And this just looks like an incredible place. I'm really excited for this.
I'm really excited to see what Scott is able to create through this. So this has been kind of his dream for years. Scott Arant, who lives in Georgia, and he helped form this C15 Foundation to really meet the needs of folks with Prader-Willi syndrome who maybe don't fit into the traditional group home model, but also don't want to live with their parents forever either.
Right.
So, you know, and we see a couple different people doing something similar like this. So at conference, people have the opportunity to tour Luna Azul. It's a very similar idea to that. So I'm excited to know that there's more and more people out there getting creative and finding ways to help people find that independence with the food security or the supervision and support that they need that can be customized to their needs. So really, really excited for this to finally get off the ground. I'm excited for Scott. And if you want to know more, there will be a link in the show notes to talk to Scott directly about what this looks like. And there's next steps. You know, they've secured the land and now they're looking for the folks who are going to be interested in living there.
So cool. They're doing something like that up by my house. It's not for PWS, but there's a big property near me that they're building like a senior living homes, but also adults with disabilities, and they're creating kind of a community there. So it's definitely on my radar. For when Freya gets older. I mean, obviously with PWS there has to be different support, but anyway, I love seeing these kind of places popping up. So that's
Me too.
fantastic. We also have something to share for the Oregon and Washington families. It is an interactive map. So this is really cool. It's a way to get your family on the map and find other families around you. And then there's hopefully in the future going to be a way to get to learn about providers in your area and a safe way to contact other families or to see where they are. So your information isn't going to be on there. It's just going to be kind of a dot. And then there's a way to like message people. And it's really cool. It's just getting started. I think it's going to be a really cool thing. And maybe someday it'll kind of expand beyond the Pacific Northwest. But
Yeah,
uh,
Bonnie talked about this on the Trailblazers session at
oh, nice.
conference. And one of the things that she had mentioned was, you know, right now it's a lot to manage and verify people and that sort of thing. So if there's other states that want to be involved, she suggested that they reach out to her and they identify somebody at their state level who manages the people who join from their state, does that verification process because it's such a cool idea. It's going to be really great for a way for people to connect, not only who live in those states, but when you're vacationing somewhere.
Yeah.
You know,
I love
it's a
that.
really great way to do that, but we wanna be sure that it's safe. And she can identify the families in Washington and Oregon, but she may not know all the families in Maryland.
Right.
So finding other state leaders or just families in particular states that kind of wanna take the lead on their state and verification, I think it's gonna end up taking off really, really quickly. And I'm excited to see how that connection continues to expand.
So you could email if you have any questions or if you want to learn more, you can email pwsawaor@gmail.com, or there will be a link in the show notes. And then our nurse Lynn for this week is aging in PWS and lifespans. So this was submitted on behalf of a female, 31 years old with UPD subtype. And they wrote, do people with PWS age at an accelerated rate compared to those who do not have this syndrome? My 31-year-old daughter was just diagnosed with arthritis in her knee. As I look back on her health history, I can see how many of her conditions are related to accelerated aging. Everything from losing baby teeth at 4 or 5 to a bone age of 12 when she was 9, to varicose veins in her 20s, to arthritis at 31, and many other issues as well. If so, what kind of lifespan can I expect? When she was younger, I was told obesity-related conditions would severely limit her lifespan. As she got older, I was told if her health and weight were monitored closely, she could live a normal lifespan. Now I'm wondering what the current thinking is. Thank you for your insights. And we will, of course, link to that in the show notes. If you would like to read Nurse Lynn's response, you can also submit your own non-emergency medical question using a link in the show notes.
Yes. So moving along to the research section. So Harmony Biosciences is offering the opportunity for people to participate in their Tempo clinical trial from home. The Tempo clinical trial is assessing for an investigational medication for excessive daytime sleepiness in people 6 years of age or older with Prader-Willi syndrome. It's a 22-week double-blind study with an open-label extension for those who choose to continue. You can learn more about this study by emailing HarmonyPWS at science37.com or clicking on the link that's going to be in the show notes.
And I think this is going to be a game changer for some people who really want to do this, but they can't travel for a variety of reasons. I love that they're offering this from home.
I do too. And I would say that by changing it that way, if this is one of the clinical trials you've been on the fence about getting involved in, I would do it sooner rather than later because I do think it's going to fill up very quickly now that they have changed that. People are
Mm.
very excited about this at-home opportunity.
Yeah. If you've been listening to the podcast, this is the trial that Freya is in, the one that we go down to Santa Monica for, which is, Santa Monica's fun, but I'd rather stay home
Well, and
than
we
go
know
to
how,
SoCal.
yeah, and how difficult it is to change routine for your kids.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Freya is okay with the change in routine, but it's always missing a day or two of school.
yeah,
We're always doing homework, flying. It's.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Aardvark Therapeutics is now enrolling their Hero Phase 3 trial. So they've got 2 new sites open, and their Hero trial, it's a global Phase 3 trial that's investigating ARD 101. Again, this is a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, and it's an important step toward identifying a potential new treatment option for the PWS community. This drug trial is targeting hyperphagia. If you want to learn more about the Hero study, you can visit hero4pws.com. So it's for FOR, HEROFOR, PWS.com. All right. And PWSA is supporting PWS research as well. So one of the things I am really, really proud of is that we are offering clinical scholarships. And what this is $25,000 to support providers in enhancing their understanding of PWS through clinical proctorships with experts in the field. So, new clinicians coming into the space who really want to learn more about PWS and stay in this space have the opportunity to receive some reimbursement funding through us by partnering with one of the expert clinicians in the field. So, one of the things that I think we talked a little bit about at convention and comes up kind of regularly is that we know that the clinicians we have in our space and the experts are incredible,
Hmm.
but they're not going to live forever either.
Right.
So we really do need to bring new clinicians into the space and get them educated and excited about PWS. And this is a way that we can help facilitate that. So I'm really, really proud of our research team and our clinical scientific advisory board for prioritizing the need to really educate new clinicians and welcoming them into our space. And the other thing we're doing is we have our call for letters of intent for our research grants. And the deadline right now is August 1st for that. And you can learn more about that on our website.
All right. And then our final section of the Pulse is our resource spotlight. And so this week is a letter to law enforcement personnel. So this is something that you can take to your local precinct or sheriff's office, or I'm not sure if there's like a name. I don't really know. Whatever. The people that are in charge of keeping law and order. It's important for them to understand PWS, especially if you have a loved one who elopes or who has maybe some behavioral issues in public, if they are prone to meltdowns and tantrums that can get very loud and explosive. It is very important for people who potentially will be called to attend to that situation. It's important that they understand PWS and how to interact with your loved one, how to keep them safe, all of that.
For me specifically, one of the things I would stress around this is bringing it to your local law enforcement agencies before an issue occurs, is when they're responding in the moment.
Right. They're not going to
They're not,
listen.
just like our kids aren't listening. They're
Right.
not listening as we're trying to educate them. So proactively educating them can make all the difference. Should a bystander, which honestly is really what happens most of the time, is a well-meaning bystander, is the one who calls.
Oh.
So having them already have the information when they respond can diffuse
Mhm.
that situation.
Yeah. And maybe even bringing your loved one to the office to meet everybody and they can meet them. And so there's that kind of a relationship formed. At least there's some recognition. Yeah, it can be really important because, yeah,
Absolutely.
law enforcement are trained to, they're not mental health professionals or they're trained to deal with situations in a certain way.
Right. Right. I have a funny story about law enforcement specifically. So while I was working at Catholic Charities, there was a gentleman that we supported in one of our PWS programs who wanted to be a sheriff and wholeheartedly believed he was.
Mm.
So for his 60th birthday, we had partnered with the local police station and we're able to get him one of their Stetson hats and a badge. And we would be driving down the road and he would see somebody speeding or changing lanes without using a directional. And he would talk into his hand and call it in to the police station and read off the license plate. It was one of the sweetest
Oh,
things. But the relationship that they formed was incredible. And honestly, it helped all of our programs as a result. It was very,
yeah.
very sweet.
Oh, I love that. Well, yeah, so if you're interested in looking at the letter or downloading a copy, it's just a great start to the conversation with your local law enforcement. You will find that link in the show notes. And that is our pulse. So, Stacey, I know we have a staff meeting here really soon, but one of the things Carrie likes to do sometimes is end with a mission moment. So, I'm wondering if you, not to put you on the spot.
No pressure at all. I would say for me, probably a mission moment in the last week or two was the opportunity and the opening of conference, being interviewed by Tony Holland, who is a pioneer locally
Hmm.
in PWS. And then, sharing that stage with Teresa Strong, who is the founder of FPWR, and Marguerite Hughes, who is the outgoing CEO of IPSO and has done such incredible things globally and in Ireland specifically, was just incredible to really be there together and feel, I think, more than see the powerhouse globally that these three organizations are when we're together. It was powerful. It really was. And I loved doing this together and that unity, that the conference was united in hope. And it wasn't just a catchphrase for us. I think that I can speak for all three of the organizations when I say that working together and bringing all of these clinicians and researchers and families and service providers together all in one space was so incredible.
Thank you for listening to this episode of PWS United. If you want to learn more about Prader-Willi syndrome and how PWSA USA is making strides in advocacy, family support, and research, visit www.pwsausa.org. And while you're there, we encourage you to sign up for our Pulse email newsletter to stay informed about the latest news, resources, and events. Don't forget to subscribe to the PWS United podcast so you never miss an episode. Our team is always available to support families and their loved ones living with PWS 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can call us at 941-312-0400 or email info@pwsausa.org. Catch a new episode next Tuesday, and until then, have a great week.